Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this morning's online webinar for version 3, the new features in MudShark. I'm just going to begin, like MudShark version 3 delivers a wide range of new features and improvements, giving you better control and better visibility over your finished site. So some of the main features we were going to discuss this morning are the new 4D walkthrough function, the new vector PDF reading and takeoff ability, and the better reuse and material reuse function has always been available in MudShark since version 1, but you know we've enhanced the capabilities and the interaction and what you can do with it. So what I'll begin with today is I'll begin with showing, having a look at the new 4D walkthrough. So say you take your finished completed site. As you can see, I have a model on screen at the minute. Okay, what it allows you to do is, instead of having just the 3D capability that was available up till version 2, there has been a new function called the 4D walkthrough function, and that allows you to take a stroll through time across your 3D site at every stage of your earthworks. Okay, how you activate the new 4D walk is taking your mouse, you come up and you've got your 4D walk button on your ribbon, and what that does is that brings you onto the site, and you can see there that you've got it. So using a mixture of interactions with your mouse and your keyboard, you can walk around, you can turn using your mouse to have a look at your site at any angle. So rather than look at it just on the 3D view, you now come down and you can experience your site and verify your data up close in person. Now you'll notice down the bottom here on your taskbar you've got the options of how you can interact with it. So your keyboard keys, so W, S, A and D. So W is forward, S is back, A is left and D is right. So if you'd like to walk forward on your site, you just press your W button. You can also move the mouse at the same time, so that allows you to walk around. If you need to go backwards, you just use the S key on it. So you've got different ways of doing it. So this is just a great way of being able to walk around your site and interact and view your data right close up. So to verify your information is being correctly entered, you can walk around your site. You still have the full capability of interacting using your takeoff options, such as if you wish to turn on your contour level so you can see them at the same time. We just come along and we select contours, and you can see there that it actually shows you the contour lines coming on screen as you go around. What you're also able to do is, using the 3D site list pane over on the right, what we can actually do is you can actually interact with the different levels. So if you were walking around on the existing site, you can be turning on and off fill items as you walk around, so you can see exactly how the site is looking. Okay, so if you were to come around there and have a look at some of the buildings, you can be turning on off the fill, off the respread, and you can see different stages of how the site would look without that information on there. Same again, we can easily just turn that information back on so we can see the site. So it allows you to be able to look at different ways of the site. What you can also do then is take snapshots. So if you were looking to include some of these in reports, let's say, you can position the camera at any angle you wish, and you can come up to your project drop-down menu as normal. You can go export, and you can hit a viewport snapshot. And what that allows you to do, as before, is you can then take different snapshots or different images. So you can create an image of where you'd like to call it and what you'd like to do it. You've got different options. You can save it as a PNG, a bitmap file, or an EMF file. And that will quickly allow you to just save that file to a location, and you can then include those different snapshots in any of the reports and take notes for yourself should you wish to. So just quickly, a great way of verifying your data up close on the detail. Probably one of the main features that have been added to the software in version 3 is the ability of our new vector PDF reading. Okay, so what I'll do quickly is I'll just jump through to a new model. Okay, so this is a new file that I haven't done any data with yet. Okay, one of the difference now when you're using PDF, so when you go to import a PDF drawing, so if I go to plans and I go to my insert plan as normal, okay, what you can do now is when you want to pick a PDF file, okay, so you can click on your PDF file here, you'll get your normal option to import it. That's the wrong one, I'll choose that one. So we'll import the PDF file as before. Now you actually get a new screen when importing a PDF drawing, okay. You'll get a list of the pages that exist in your PDF, and when you select them, you will actually get a print preview option of that. So you can actually verify that the options you want is. So if there was multiple pages in your PDF, you could use the little checkbox here to be able to select and unselect certain pages for it. Now by default, what the software will do is it will automatically vectorize any PDF files that you import. If you'd like to revert that back to say how the software handled PDFs in version 2, you've got the option here down the bottom to convert PDF files to images. So should you not wish to vectorize a PDF, let's say it's a landscape image and you'd like all the colors and all the detail on it as an image, which you can still take off from as normal, you can just choose the option to convert it to an image. Now I don't want that to happen, I want to vectorize this one, so I'll leave that option unchecked and I'll hit my insert plan option as before. Okay. Now what the vectorization does is, now if there was layer information available in the PDF file, MudShark will automatically read that information. So if the PDF was exported from, say, a CAD program, okay, and the layer information was included in that, that would automatically come in for you. However, if it doesn't exist, MudShark automatically converts and creates layer information for you to make it even easier for you to deal with PDF. So you'll notice here, like if you were using an AutoCAD file, you would be familiar with the fact that your layer information appears, and you can use these little check boxes of being able to hide and turn off certain information on the file. So you can actually be using this to turn off information on the CAD file. So you can see there your existing layer, or if you want to turn on everything, you can do that easily as before. So the software automatically creates layer information if none exist already in the software for you. So what I'll do is I'll just rotate that. Now because we've actually got the vectorization done, okay, and I'll just zoom up on that section there at the side, okay. Because we've actually measured, we've vectorized the data, what you can now do is you can now take advantage of using the transmute tool when you want to do your takeoff, okay? Those familiar who use the transmute file with CAD files, you know how quick and how drastically improves your takeoff facility rather than use the PDF. So I'll just give you an example of that. So if I go to my Home tab, I'm going to choose existing site. I'm going to select my contour option. You'll notice now that we've got both the polyline and the transmute tool available to us using the PDF file. Okay, so instead of using the polyline tool and having to, manually polyline each line, I'll select my transmute tool. Now you'll get the normal altitude source as before, so what I want to do is I want to change that from plan to custom so we can manually tell the software what our takeoff is. So say we're going to begin on the first line here, which is the 92.5 altitude line. So what I'll do is I'll put that in as my first altitude point, and I'll tell the software then that I'm going up in half-meter increments. Okay. So by doing that, you're telling the software what your next altitude of what it is, and the increment would just help me speed up the process. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to use the transmute tool, and by clicking on a single line, you'll notice that it automatically basically takes the vector data and converts it to takeoff for you. So you notice by clicking on a single contour line, it automatically transmutes that and puts that under our existing contours at the correct altitude. And then using the directional arrows with an increment set, all I have to do is simply click on each individual contour line, and the software is automatically transmuting and converting that to takeoff. So now using a PDF drawing, should improve your takeoff time drastically from before, as you're using the old polygon tool to measure that line individually. Okay, so all you got to do is, and I'm just using the increment there and the direction of the slope to tell the software where that's going. Okay, let's just level that out. It's just a single line. I'll go back up to the next one. Okay, so you can see very quickly you'll be able to measure your existing levels, and you can see that all those contour lines now are converted in to give us takeoff lines directly from a PDF drawing. So no more are you using the takeoff ability and having to polyline it. It should improve your times 5-10 times depending on the level of the PDF drawing. Okay. Another one of the main features that have been added to the thing is the ability to enhance and, basically give you better information and better control of the materials that you might set up in the site. Okay, and again for this, I'm just going to switch to a job that I've actually already taken off. Okay, so I've actually completed the takeoff of this particular site. Okay, it's only a very simple site. And what I've also done is I've actually gone into my boring log or my trial hole log, okay, and I've nominated some small information here. I just did this one this morning before we began. So I've said, that there's a topsoil level, there's clay, damp and dry, and I've some rock in my site, okay? And as before, you can go along and you can nominate where you want your boring information to appear, as I've done. Okay, but what that does is when you run your calculation option, okay, what that does, if I go into my results tab, okay, that will give me a breakdown of all the material that I've used. So I'm looking at the ground layer materials format at the minute. Okay, so I've filtered based just on the ground layer material, and I can notice there that I've got my topsoil, my clay, damp, dry and rock, and any fill material that I might have used. Okay, but you can see here, for example, say for topsoil, we're showing that we're cutting out 517 cubic meters of topsoil. We're reusing 353 of that, and that's we're exporting 164 cubic meters of that material, and that goes straight through to all of the information that we've done. Okay, which is fine. The software has automatically generated that value up from our takeoff ability that we've completed for the site. Okay. But what we've added then is actually more information available on the project materials window. Okay, so by default the software automatically tries to reuse 100% of the material on the site for fill if it needs to, and that's where our reuse values are coming from. Okay, but if I want to come up and if I click on my project materials button, okay, the project materials option now gives me a list of basically all the material information that we're using on this particular project. Okay, but a couple of new functions that have been added to version 3 is, one, you can control wastage from your cutting operations. Okay, you'll see here up on this operation waste here, I've got a stripping waste and a cut waste facility now. Okay, and we can come along here and we can nominate how much wastage is being applied to each operation. So I'm saying for my total stripping value, okay, I'm saying that there's 20% strip, 20% of that is wasted, so it'll discard 20% of the total strip volume, and the same for the cut then as well. You've also got ability of, restricting reuse. Okay, so you've got two new checkboxes here. One, you can nominate, that respread is only available from the stripping volume. Okay, so when you do your strip, that value is sort of stored there in soil heaps or whatever, and then when it comes to the respread, it will reuse the stripping as best as possible for your respread values. You can also nominate then the fill is only available from the cut operation. So it will strip down the site first, and then any of the cut information, that volume will only be available for fill. Now you can obviously overwrite those settings by unselecting those facilities if need be. Okay? But what I really want to concentrate is coming down to the grid format here. Okay, what we can do is this gives us a high level of control of what soil can be reused where, or we can drill down and control where each individual material can be reused. And we can also define any materials that are not suitable for reuse on our site. Okay, so what you'll notice is if I come down, these are just my structure materials listing out what I've used, but I want to just concentrate on my ground materials here. So I've got my topsoil, my clay, my both dry and damp, and my rock. Again, you can nominate and change the color of how that appears in your 3D imagery for yourself if you want. Okay. But what I want to concentrate on is you see the way you've got your unusable column now, you've also got respread, structure fill, ground fill, and you've got the normal bulking and compression columns that you had previously where we can nominate, for swelling or whatever. Okay. Now, what you can do is if, let's say, no material can be reused, let's say, for structure fill. Let's say, the site dictates that all structure fill has to be imported fill. What we can do is we can come up and uncheck structure fill, and what the software will do on the calculation is no material that was cut or any structures that you've laid out on the site, there will be no fill reused from any of our cut. It would all automatically be imported fill required for under structures. Okay, but what you can also do then is you can drill down deeper into the materials. Okay, say you've got your unusable, and we can nominate a percentage of that. So let's say the soil report or whatever has nominated that the clay damp then has some organic sort of substance in it and it's not usable for fill. Rather than uncheck options, what we can do is we can come along to the clay damp and we can basically put 100% in that field. Okay, and that's marking that material option as 100% unusable for our fill operation. So it will automatically take the volume that's calculated for that material and export it off-site. Okay, obviously you can do smaller values if you wish. Okay, let's say we come down as an example and we want to look at our rock values. Let's say obviously rock we're not going to use in respread and we're not going to use in structure fill, but let's say for an example you've got a good few berms or something on the site and you're going to reuse it in some of the open ground because the cost to get rid of it is obviously quite high. So what we can do is we can check box against ground fill. Okay, and what the software will do is it will automatically use the volume for the rock in your ground fill operations. Okay, so if you've got certain berms, you want to use that information, you can do that very easily. Okay, so by doing that information, we'll remember what we did for, we had the exported values that we did. By just closing that, okay, and we run the calculation again, you'll notice that those figures instantly change. Okay, it doesn't take long to calculate that because you're only just applying different percentages to the values. Okay, but now what you can notice is instead of 21 cubic meters of rock being exported, we're now reusing 13 cubic meters of that in the fill for the ground, and we can expand that down. Okay, and we can actually see where That's just my cut values, a big brand. I'll go into my fill operations, so I'll go into my ground layer operations, and we can come down in here to our open ground fill from site, and we can break that down and we can see where the fill material is coming from. So you can see open ground fill, and you can see that's where your 13 cubic meters of rock is being carried forward to open ground. Okay, so you're able to quickly, easy there, and if you want then obviously to verify that then in your viewport, we can go through, we can look at our proposed site, we could go in, say, look at that in 3D, and using our 3D interaction, similar to what you've obviously been a thing, we could turn off a lot of the information. You know, we can go down into our open ground fill here. We can turn off and we can see exactly where that fill is on the site for ourselves. Okay. So you can see, obviously you can turn on the remainder there to give you an idea of where that fill is. So that'll show you where you're using that volume, you know, in your 3D site. Okay, so you can see there, so your project materials button then gives you greater control over where you're going to use the site and where you're going to, well, where you're going to use the material in the site, you know, and what percentage you want to use and where you want to use it. So it just gives you that greater control, and obviously greater control leads to greater accuracy, which leads to a better bottom line, and that's what we're all after. Okay, now there's a couple of other smaller, you know, when I say smaller, I mean just, you know, compared to those three ones, you know, some extra features that availability. You notice that when I'm on my 3D site, so say I go back in here and I look at my site in 3D, okay, and this one has a bit more complexity to it. We've added the ability of the new cube here in the 3D. So instead of using the rotate option, the cube just gives you better control. It gives you free rotating of the site. So anyone familiar with AutoCAD or whatever would be familiar with the cube option and how much it's good. So it allows you to give you free rotation of your site as you're going along. What it also has then is there's certain fixed positions, such as the top of the site. You know, you can look at the top right hand corner, you can look at the front of the site, whatever you want. So they'll just give you quick snap single click operations to give you a look. So it's just an easier way of you being able to use and work from the site. Okay, and just gives us a lot. And if you are taking snapshots, you can then position your camera at any angle for yourself. Okay, there is also then, you know, for previous you know, if you want to do better site balancing and stuff like that, we have our editing tools that you've had before, so you've been able to select a structure, adjust an altitude, move a selection or whatever. Okay, so, you know, if you're looking to do better site balance, let's say we go back in and we're looking at our existing site that I just did. I'll just put it into 2D. Say you wanted to get a better thing, or if there's a revision to the drawing. Okay, I'll just turn the plans on there. And say you wanted to adjust that structure. So I'll select this structure that I've just done, which is the house foundation floor. Okay, there's a new ability in here called the rotate structure, and that allows you to rotate a or a number of structure boundaries, basically to give you control and position of where you want to do it to maximize your material reuse. So what you're able to do is by selecting a structure, you can now choose the rotate structure button. Okay, and that gives you a degree angle in which you can rotate. So you can rotate like by 5 degrees, you can go left or right. Okay, and you can see there the structure will turn, and all we need to do then is hit, when you're happy with the position, you can just simply hit calculate, and the software will run the numbers again based on those functionality. Okay, so you can see then when you look into your 3D site, let's just turn on my structures. Okay, you'll see the structure floor coming in to give you a better option of where you're going. Okay, so it's just an ability of being able to give you better control and control how you're using the site balance. Or let's say there was a revision to the drawing and you've imported in a second image underneath and the structure has slightly moved. So you can either use the move option, or if it's slightly rotated, rather than have to redraw it again, you can do that for yourself. There's also been improvements to the takeoff pane, okay? And anyone starting out using MudShark has probably done similar to what I've done. Is you might create an option that you know, in the wrong site stage or whatever, as an example, or you know, you might want to create a contour that maps around, say, a 3D structure such as a road. You know, so say the surface of the open ground is coming right up to the edge of the structure. So rather than have to draw a boundary, another contour around the boundary, what you've got is there's new ability over here on the takeoff pane. So what I mean by that is, let's say I come along and I've got, I'll just actually undo my structure rotation. Back to where we were. Okay. So let's say, as an example, we wanted to put a contour line around, say, the roadway here. Okay. So I've got my driveway, there's my structure, and I've got my structure boundary. Okay. So now what you can do is, if you want the surface, the open ground areas around here to come right up to the edge of the boundary, instead of having to draw another contour line directly around that structure, you can now come over to your takeoff list pane. You can then right click on it, and what you've got is an option called transmute new contour. And what that does is, not only will it draw, or transmute is the words we use, the contour around it, it'll actually use the altitude data that you've used for that structure. So if you've got a structure with multiple different altitudes, such as a car park or, you know, a roadway or something that might be sloping, instead of having to redo it along the way, you can now just go transmute new contour, and that will automatically add a contour directly onto your existing site, onto your proposed site level under contours. Okay, so if we were to turn off everything just to show you where that's coming, I can turn off my structures, I can turn off all my contours, and I'll just turn on that new contour, and we can see the contour coming directly around the structure. So that'll just give you better gradient, you know, better sort of, you know, even a way you could even, you know, help with the battering of your site to give you a better smooth finish along your structures, rather than you have to use multiple different point altitudes or multiple different contour lines to get you that information. You can also then, you know, on your actual takeoff list for contours, etc., what you can do is you can right click now and you can do transmute a new contour. So if you want to do actually multiple, you know, contours, you want to copy something, or you can actually transfer something to a new site stage. So that one is for the likes of us who made slight mistakes when we were doing it. You know, you can, if you've done some takeoffs such as contours or whatever and forgot to switch your site mode, which, you know, people have done, you can now transfer the takeoff to the next stage, so you don't have to do it. So you want to take that contour and transmute it to the next stage, you just simply click that, and that automatically brings that up and adds it to that list for yourself. So it's just a quick way of being able to move something between site stages if required. So that's pretty much all the main features we've added. Obviously there's compatibility, and there's also been speed changes in the background. It's hard to show. The software is now fully Windows 8 compatible. It'll actually work with a Windows 8 touchscreen and gesture support for the viewport. So if you are using a Surface or whatever, it will do that. And it will also work off the new Autodesk 2013 file format. So if you're receiving AutoCAD files from, you know, architects who are running the latest version of AutoCAD, that's not a problem. The software will open that file format for you. There's no need to get them to have to save it in older versions. So that's all the main features for version 3. I'll actually open up the microphones now for questions. So if anybody's any questions, if